So I've brought my blind over to my desk now. I've turned it through so it's the right way round now. So now wrong sides are together. When I sewed my 5 centimeters seam here with a 5 centimeter seam allowance, you can see that I've stopped 5 centimeters from the hem. Like so. And this is where we're going to leave it open because we'll need to mitre our corner there. And there's a 5 centimeter gap there, and a 10 centimeter overhang of the fabric from the lining. Now make sure you press these beautiful seams now so they're lovely and even, flat. So just checking that they are 5 centimeters all the way along. Then you'll need to mark up where the tape's going to go. This will create the folds in your blinds. The distance between these folds needs to be equal, with the distance with the bottom section should be a little over half of the length between the folds. So a little over half the fold depth. That should be the length from the last strip of tape down to the hem. And that means that when it folds up, you get a little bit of the blind hanging down below. If it's shorter than the fold, the sunlight's going to come through your window and it'll fade your blind. So when it folds back out, you'll have a faded section on the front of your blind. So this is the method to use if you're going to have your blind hanging from the 1 inch part of your 2x1 batten. So our wooden batten would affix up with the 2 inches up to the inside of the window frame, and the 1 inch is going to be velcroed along to the top of the blind. So I've marked down from the top of my lining 1.5 inches, and that's 1 inch for the batten, and then 1/2 inch allowance for the eyelet screw, and that will be screwed into your batten. So I've marked down 1.5 inches from the top of the lining. Then I've divided up these 3 panels. And they're 10 3/4 inches. And then my bottom section, 6 inches. Just go along with your ruler, do a little pencil mark, and then you want parallel lines across. I've popped a couple of pins perpendicular to this line, and then carefully I run a long tacking stitch, stitching the fabric to the lining. Don't need to tie a knot at the beginning or the end of this because you're going to slip it out once you've stitched your tape along this line. So this is not only a guide, but it's also keeping the fabric and the lining together to ensure that there's no puckers in between the pleats. You want this blind to be absolutely beautifully flat. So pin and then run a tacking stitch along each one of your lines. The next thing is to cut your tape to size. I find what works best for me is I just cut the tape to the length of the width of the blind. Perfect. Now you can get two different types of tape. This tape has got the slots in. This is the one I prefer to use. It means that once you've sealed up the ends and stitched it on, you can slip your doweling in through the holes. The other tape doesn't have these little slots. It's just like a tube. So you would seal up one end, stitch it on, you'd have to slot your doweling in and then by hand stitch up the end. It just looks a bit scruffy. It's not as professional. So I'd definitely recommend the slotted tape.